Welcome to this journey through time, a voyage spanning billions of years, tracing the magnificent story of how life came to be. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and let yourself drift as we travel back to the very beginning, to a time before time itself had meaning, before the first stars ignited, before the first atoms formed. Imagine absolute darkness, absolute stillness, a void beyond comprehension. Then, in an instant that defies understanding, everything began. 13.8 billion years ago, the universe exploded into existence in what we call the Big Bang, an incomprehensible release of energy that created space itself, time itself, the very fabric of reality. In that first fraction of a second, the universe was unimaginably hot, unimaginably dense, a seething plasma of pure energy. As it expanded, it cooled, and within microseconds the first quarks appeared, the fundamental building blocks of matter. These quarks combined to form protons and neutrons, the particles that would eventually form the nuclei of atoms. The universe continued to expand and cool, and after about 3 minutes, conditions were right for these protons and neutrons to combine, forming the first atomic nuclei. Primarily hydrogen and helium, the simplest and most abundant elements in the cosmos. For hundreds of thousands of years, the universe remained too hot for atoms to form completely. Electrons could not yet bind to nuclei because energetic photons kept knocking them free. But gradually, inevitably, the universe cooled further. About 380,000 years after the Big Bang, it became cool enough for electrons to combine with nuclei, forming the first complete atoms. This moment is called recombination, and it marked a profound change. Before this, the universe was opaque, light constantly scattering off free electrons. After recombination, the universe became transparent, and light could travel freely through space for the first time. The faint glow of this ancient light still fills the universe today, stretched by cosmic expansion into microwaves, a whisper of the beginning that we can still detect. Now the universe was filled with vast clouds of hydrogen and helium gas, spreading through the expanding cosmos. Gravity, patient and persistent, began its work. Tiny variations in density, quantum fluctuations from the earliest moments, became the seeds of structure. Denser regions attracted more matter, growing slowly but inexorably. Over millions of years, these clouds collapsed under their own gravity, becoming denser, hotter, more compressed. In the centers of the largest collapsing clouds, temperatures and pressures climbed higher and higher. About 100 million years after the Big Bang, the first stars ignited. Deep in their cores, hydrogen atoms were crushed together with such force that they fused into helium, releasing tremendous amounts of energy. The universe, dark for so long, began to shine. These first stars were giants, massive and brilliant, burning through their fuel rapidly. They lived fast and died young, and in their deaths, they gave the universe an incredible gift. As these massive stars exhausted their hydrogen, they began fusing helium into heavier elements. Carbon formed, then oxygen, neon, magnesium, silicon, iron. Each fusion reaction required higher temperatures, greater pressures, occurring in nested shells within the dying star. Finally, unable to sustain fusion any longer, these massive stars collapsed catastrophically and then exploded as supernovae, violent eruptions that briefly outshone entire galaxies. In the incredible heat and pressure of these explosions, even heavier elements formed: gold and uranium, platinum and lead, all the elements heavier than iron. These explosions scattered enriched material across space, seeding the cosmos with the building blocks of planets, of oceans, of life itself. Every atom of carbon in your body, every atom of oxygen you breathe, every atom of iron in your blood was forged in the heart of a dying star billions of years ago. You are made of stardust, literally and profoundly. Generation after generation of stars lived and died, each enriching space with heavier elements. Gravity continued its patient work, gathering this enriched material into new clouds, new stars, new possibilities. About 9 billion years after the Big Bang, in an ordinary spiral galaxy we now call the Milky Way, a particular cloud of gas and dust began to collapse. This was not the first star to form in this galaxy, nor would it be the last, but it was special to us, for it would become our sun. As this cloud collapsed, it began to spin faster, flattening into a disk. Most of the mass fell into the center, forming a new star, but the disk of material surrounding this young star held the seeds of something remarkable. Within this disk, dust grains collided and stuck together, gradually building larger and larger objects. Pebbles formed, then boulders, then kilometer-sized planetesimals. These planetesimals collided, sometimes shattering, sometimes merging in a violent dance of creation and destruction. Gravity sorted the material, with rocky, metallic substances dominating the inner solar system, where it was too hot for ices to survive, while the outer regions accumulated vast amounts of frozen water, methane, and ammonia. Over tens of millions of years, these planetesimals accumulated into protoplanets, and these protoplanets eventually became the worlds we know today. 4.5 billion years ago, the Earth formed from this cosmic construction project, a ball of molten rock in orbit around a young star. The early Earth was hellish, bombarded constantly by debris left over from planet formation. Heat from these impacts, combined with heat from radioactive decay in the Earth's interior, kept the surface molten. Heavier elements like iron sank toward the center, forming Earth's core, while lighter materials rose to form the mantle and eventually the crust. The bombardment continued for hundreds of millions of years, but gradually, slowly, it began to diminish. The surface started to cool and solidify, forming the first solid crust. Volcanoes erupted constantly, releasing gases from the interior, water vapor, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, creating Earth's first atmosphere. This early atmosphere was nothing like the air we breathe today, with no free oxygen, but it was a beginning. As the Earth continued to cool, water vapor in the atmosphere condensed, and it began to rain. It rained for millions of years, torrential downpours that filled the lowest areas, creating the first oceans. These early oceans were likely quite different from modern seas, probably acidic, rich in dissolved minerals and covering most of the planet. Beneath the surface of these ancient oceans, near hydrothermal vents where hot, mineral-rich water poured from the seafloor, chemistry began to do something extraordinary. The exact details remain mysterious, one of science's great questions, but somehow, somewhere, probably in multiple places at multiple times, simple organic molecules began to form and combine in increasingly complex ways. Amino acids, the building blocks of proteins, may have formed from simpler compounds. Nucleotides, the building blocks of RNA and DNA, assembled from sugars and bases. Lipids, fatty molecules that can form membranes, organized themselves into tiny spheres. These chemical processes, driven by energy from hydrothermal vents, lightning, ultraviolet radiation from the sun, gradually produced more and more complex molecules. At some point, perhaps around 4 billion years ago, though the exact timing remains uncertain, something remarkable happened. Certain molecules began to make copies of themselves. This self-replication was probably crude at first, imperfect, but it was enough. RNA molecules, capable of both storing information and catalyzing chemical reactions, may have been among the first self-replicators. These molecules competed for resources, the building blocks needed to make copies. Those that replicated more efficiently, more accurately, became more numerous. Mistakes in copying, mutations, introduced variation. Most mutations were harmful, but occasionally one conferred an advantage, and that variant would become more common. This was natural selection, evolution, beginning at the molecular level. Gradually, over millions of years, these replicating molecules became more sophisticated. They developed ways to protect themselves, perhaps acquiring lipid membranes that separated them from their environment, creating the first protocells. They developed more efficient ways to store information, eventually settling on DNA as the primary information storage molecule, with RNA serving as a messenger and proteins doing most of the cellular work. The first true cells emerged, simple single-celled organisms without nuclei, what we now call prokaryotes. These early cells were likely similar to modern bacteria and archaea. They were small, simple, but incredibly successful. They developed diverse metabolisms, different ways of obtaining energy. Some used chemicals in their environment, others may have used light. About 3.5 billion years ago, some of these cells evolved the ability to perform photosynthesis, using energy from sunlight to convert carbon dioxide and water into sugars, releasing oxygen as a waste product. For the first billion years or so, this oxygen did not accumulate in the atmosphere. The oceans and rocks were full of iron and other substances that readily combined with oxygen, essentially absorbing all the oxygen produced. But eventually, around 2.5 billion years ago, these oxygen sinks became saturated, and oxygen began to accumulate in the atmosphere. This was the Great Oxidation Event, one of the most dramatic changes in Earth's history. For most life at the time, oxygen was toxic, and many species likely went extinct. But this crisis created new opportunities. Oxygen enabled much more efficient energy production through aerobic respiration, and organisms that could harness this energy thrived. The stage was set for the next great transition. About 2 billion years ago, something remarkable happened that would change the trajectory of life forever. A larger cell, perhaps an archaeon, somehow engulfed a smaller bacterium, but instead of digesting it, the two formed a partnership. The smaller bacterium, specialized in aerobic respiration, provided energy for the host cell. In return, the host provided protection and resources. Over time, this relationship became permanent, inseparable. The engulfed bacterium evolved into mitochondria, the powerhouses of the cell. This process, called endosymbiosis, happened at least twice. Another group of cells engulfed photosynthetic bacteria, which became chloroplasts, enabling these cells to harness sunlight directly. These new cells, with their internal compartments and membrane-bound nuclei, were eukaryotes, the ancestors of all plants, animals, and fungi. Eukaryotic cells were larger, more complex, and more versatile than prokaryotes. For more than 1 billion years, life remained microscopic, single-celled eukaryotes and prokaryotes filling the oceans. But around 650 million years ago, some eukaryotes began to do something new. They began to stick together after dividing, forming colonies. Some cells in these colonies began to specialize, taking on different roles. Some became dedicated to reproduction, others to feeding, others to structure. The first multicellular organisms evolved, initially simple, but with immense potential. The fossil record from about 600 million years ago shows strange, soft-bodied organisms called the Ediacaran biota, quilted and frond-like, unlike anything alive today. Then, about 540 million years ago, evolution seemed to explode. In a geological eye blink, a mere 10 or 20 million years, most of the major groups of animals we recognize today appeared in the fossil record. This is the Cambrian explosion, and during this time, the oceans filled with diversity. Arthropods with jointed legs and hard exoskeletons, mollusks with shells, early chordates with stiffening rods down their backs, the ancestors of all vertebrates including us. Eyes evolved, hard parts evolved, predation became more intense, driving an evolutionary arms race. Life was no longer just about existing but about competing, hunting, hiding, surviving in an increasingly complex ecosystem. In the oceans, life flourished and diversified. Fish evolved, first without jaws, then with them, becoming more efficient predators. Some developed bony skeletons, others cartilaginous ones like modern sharks. The oceans were rich with life, but the land remained barren, a realm of rock and sand. Around 470 million years ago, the first pioneers moved onto land. Plants, likely descended from green algae, began to colonize the edges of water, developing ways to prevent drying out, to stand upright without the support of water, to transport water and nutrients. The first land plants were small and simple, but they transformed the landscape, creating soil, changing the chemistry of the atmosphere, providing food and habitat for the animals that would follow. Arthropods, particularly ancestors of insects and spiders, were probably the first animals on land, feeding on the plants and detritus. Around 370 million years ago, some fish began to venture onto land as well. These were the lobe-finned fish, with muscular fins that could support their weight. Perhaps they were escaping predators, or pursuing prey, or simply moving between drying pools. Over millions of years, natural selection favored those that could spend more time on land. Their fins gradually evolved into legs, their swim bladders into lungs. The first amphibians crawled onto land, still tied to water for reproduction, laying their soft eggs in ponds and streams. But some of their descendants would break this final tie to the water. Around 320 million years ago, some amphibians evolved the amniotic egg, with a hard or leathery shell and internal membranes that protected the developing embryo, allowing it to develop entirely on land. These were the first reptiles, fully terrestrial, able to colonize even dry environments far from water. The land was now rich with life, vast forests of ferns and early seed plants, insects buzzing through the air, amphibians and reptiles crawling across the ground. The continents were joined in a supercontinent called Pangaea, and across this vast landmass, life spread and diversified. Reptiles evolved into many forms, some returning to the water, others becoming specialized herbivores or carnivores. Around 230 million years ago, one group of reptiles began to show unusual features. They stood more upright, with legs beneath their bodies rather than sprawling to the sides. They were active, perhaps warm-blooded. These were the dinosaurs, and they would come to dominate the Earth for the next 160 million years. Dinosaurs evolved into an incredible diversity of forms. Massive sauropods with long necks browsed the treetops. Armored ankylosaurs defended themselves with bony plates and club tails. Swift theropods hunted in packs or alone. Some dinosaurs grew feathers, initially perhaps for insulation or display, but eventually some of these feathered dinosaurs took to the air, becoming the first birds. In the shadows of the dinosaurs, other groups were evolving. Mammals had appeared around the same time as dinosaurs, descending from a different group of reptiles. For most of the Mesozoic era, mammals remained small, mostly nocturnal, perhaps feeding on insects and small vertebrates, staying out of the way of the giant reptiles. But they had key innovations: warm-bloodedness, fur, specialized teeth, and most significantly, they nourished their young with milk, giving their offspring a better start in life. 250 million years ago, the Earth experienced its worst mass extinction, the Permian-Triassic extinction, when volcanic eruptions in Siberia released massive amounts of carbon dioxide and other gases, causing dramatic climate change. About 96% of marine species and 70% of terrestrial species went extinct. Life persisted, but it took millions of years to recover. 66 million years ago, another catastrophe struck. An asteroid 6 miles wide slammed into what is now the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, releasing energy equivalent to billions of nuclear bombs. The impact threw massive amounts of dust and debris into the atmosphere, blocking sunlight, causing global cooling, massive wildfires, acid rain. The dinosaurs, except for the bird lineage, went extinct, along with about 75% of all species. But this catastrophe created opportunity. With the dinosaurs gone, mammals began to diversify rapidly, filling the ecological niches left vacant. They grew larger, more diverse in form and lifestyle. Some took to the trees, others to the water, others remained on the ground. About 60 million years ago, in the trees of what would become Africa, a group of mammals evolved grasping hands with opposable thumbs, forward-facing eyes for depth perception, and relatively large brains. These were the first primates, ancestors of monkeys, apes, and eventually humans. For tens of millions of years, primates diversified, some becoming specialized for life in the trees, others adapting to life on the ground. Around 7 million years ago, in Africa, the lineage that would lead to humans split from the lineage that would lead to chimpanzees and bonobos, our closest living relatives. The early members of our lineage, the hominins, began to walk upright more consistently, freeing their hands for carrying objects and using tools. Over the next several million years, many species of hominins evolved and went extinct, experimenting with different adaptations. Around 2.5 million years ago, the first members of our genus, Homo, appeared. They had larger brains than earlier hominins and began making more sophisticated stone tools. Different species of Homo evolved, including Homo erectus, which spread out of Africa into Asia and Europe about 2 million years ago. They learned to control fire, a transformative technology that provided warmth, protection from predators, a way to cook food making it easier to digest and more nutritious. About 300,000 years ago, our species, Homo sapiens, emerged in Africa. We were not the only human species at the time. Neanderthals lived in Europe and Western Asia, Denisovans in Eastern Asia, and several other species existed in various parts of the world. But Homo sapiens had something special, perhaps more flexible thinking, more sophisticated language, more complex social structures. Around 70,000 years ago, modern humans began to leave Africa in small groups, spreading across Asia, into Europe, eventually reaching Australia about 50,000 years ago. As they spread, they encountered other human species. Sometimes they competed, sometimes they interbred. We carry traces of Neanderthal and Denisovan DNA in our genomes today, evidence of these ancient encounters. By about 40,000 years ago, humans had reached Europe, bringing with them sophisticated tools, art, music, complex burial practices. They created stunning cave paintings, carved figurines, made jewelry, demonstrating symbolic thought and creativity. About 15,000 years ago, near the end of the last ice age, humans crossed from Asia into North America via a land bridge that existed where the Bering Strait is now. They spread rapidly through the Americas, reaching South America within a few thousand years. By 10,000 years ago, humans had reached nearly every habitable continent, adapting to an incredible range of environments, from Arctic tundra to tropical rainforests, from deserts to islands. Then, around 12,000 years ago, something profound began to happen independently in several parts of the world. Humans began to domesticate plants and animals, transitioning from hunting and gathering to agriculture. In the Middle East, people began cultivating wheat and barley, domesticating sheep and goats. In China, they cultivated rice and millet. In Mesoamerica, they domesticated corn, beans, and squash. Agriculture allowed humans to produce more food in a smaller area, supporting larger, more settled populations. Villages grew into towns, towns into cities. Civilization as we know it began to emerge. With settled agriculture came new technologies and social structures. People developed pottery to store grain, weaving to make cloth, metallurgy to create tools and weapons from copper, bronze, and eventually iron. Writing systems emerged, initially for record-keeping, tracking harvests and trade but eventually used for literature, law, and history. The first great civilizations arose in river valleys, Mesopotamia between the Tigris and Euphrates, Egypt along the Nile, the Indus Valley Civilization in South Asia, and civilizations along the Yellow River in China. These civilizations built monumental architecture, developed complex religious and political systems, made advances in mathematics, astronomy, and engineering. Knowledge accumulated and spread, though often slowly. The wheel was invented, sailing ships improved, trade networks expanded, connecting distant regions, exchanging not just goods but ideas, technologies, and unfortunately diseases. Empires rose and fell, the Akkadians, Babylonians, Assyrians, Persians, Greeks, Romans, and many others, each leaving their mark on human history. Around 2,500 years ago, in various parts of the world, there was an explosion of philosophical and religious thought. In Greece, philosophers like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle laid foundations for Western philosophy and science. In India, Buddhism and Jainism emerged. In China, Confucius and Laozi developed ethical and philosophical systems. In the Middle East, monotheistic religions evolved. These ideas would shape human thought for millennia. The Roman Empire, at its height, connected much of Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East, spreading Latin language, Roman law, and infrastructure. When it fell in the West around 1,500 years ago, Europe entered a period often called the Middle Ages, though this era saw significant developments in technology, agriculture, and learning. Particularly preserved and advanced by Islamic scholars, who translated and built upon Greek and Roman knowledge. Around 500 years ago, European explorers, seeking trade routes to Asia, stumbled upon the Americas, initiating sustained contact between the Eastern and Western hemispheres for the first time in thousands of years. This Columbian exchange transformed both worlds, introducing new crops, animals, and unfortunately diseases that devastated indigenous populations who had no immunity. It also began a period of European colonialism that would reshape the entire world. The scientific revolution began in the 16th and 17th centuries, with figures like Copernicus, Galileo, and Newton developing new ways of understanding the natural world through observation, experimentation, and mathematics. The idea that the universe operated according to natural laws that could be discovered and tested was revolutionary. This led to the Enlightenment, emphasizing reason, individual rights, and progress. About 250 years ago, the Industrial Revolution began in Britain, powered by coal and steam engines. Machines began to replace human and animal labor, factories arose, production increased dramatically. Railroads and steamships connected regions like never before. This transformation spread across the world, bringing both tremendous benefits and new problems: urbanization, pollution, harsh working conditions, and social upheaval. The pace of change accelerated. In the 19th century, scientists developed the theory of evolution by natural selection, explaining the diversity of life, the germ theory of disease, revolutionizing medicine, and the laws of thermodynamics and electromagnetism, enabling new technologies. The 20th century saw even more rapid change. Einstein's theories of relativity transformed our understanding of space, time, and gravity. Quantum mechanics revealed the strange behavior of matter at the smallest scales. The discovery of DNA's structure unlocked the molecular basis of heredity. Humans developed powered flight, split the atom, invented computers, landed on the moon, eradicated diseases, extended lifespans, connected the entire world through communication networks. We also faced unprecedented challenges: 2 devastating world wars, the threat of nuclear annihilation, environmental degradation, climate change driven by greenhouse gas emissions. Today, more than 7 billion humans inhabit the Earth, connected by technology, yet facing global challenges that require cooperation, wisdom, and care. We are the first species on Earth capable of understanding our own origins, of looking back through deep time and seeing the long, winding path that led to this moment. From the Big Bang to the first atoms, from the first stars to the formation of our solar system, from the molten early Earth to the emergence of life in ancient oceans. From single cells to complex organisms, from the first steps onto land to the age of dinosaurs, from the rise of mammals to the emergence of humans, each step built upon the last, each stage preparing the way for the next. You are the result of this unbroken chain, stretching back nearly 14 billion years. The atoms in your body were forged in stellar furnaces. The molecules of life within you descend from the first replicators in ancient seas. The structure of your cells reflects billions of years of evolution. Your brain, the most complex object we know of in the universe, is the product of millions of years of natural selection. You carry within you the entire history of life, encoded in your DNA, expressed in your form, present in the very way you think and feel. As you drift towards sleep, remember this magnificent heritage. You are not separate from nature but a part of it, an expression of the universe's creativity. The same laws of physics that govern the stars govern the atoms in your body. The same chemistry that began in primordial oceans continues in your cells. The same evolutionary processes that shaped all life on Earth shaped you. Rest now, knowing you are connected to everything that has ever been, part of an ongoing story that continues into an unknown future. Sleep peacefully, child of the cosmos, made of stardust, shaped by time, heir to billions of years of history, carrying within you the spark of consciousness that allows the universe to know itself. Sweet dreams as you float through the vastness of time and space, part of the eternal dance of matter and energy, life and death, creation and transformation. The universe continues its expansion, galaxies drift apart, stars are born and die, and life, improbable and precious, continues to evolve, adapt, and persist. You are here because of countless contingencies, improbable events, narrow escapes from extinction. The asteroid that killed the dinosaurs allowed mammals to thrive. Ancient supernovae created the elements essential for life. The moon's formation, likely from a massive collision early in Earth's history, stabilized our planet's tilt, giving us stable seasons. Jupiter's gravity cleared much of the debris from the inner solar system, reducing asteroid impacts. So many things had to happen just right for you to exist. Let this realization fill you with wonder rather than anxiety. You are the universe experiencing itself, matter organized in such a way as to be aware, to wonder, to dream. As you sleep, your brain will continue its work, consolidating memories, processing experiences, dreaming strange dreams that reflect the activity of your neural networks. Even in sleep, you are an active participant in the universe's unfolding. Rest now, knowing that the same forces that created galaxies and stars also created you. The same patience of geological time that shaped mountains and oceans also shaped your species. The same trial and error of evolution that produced the eye and the wing also produced your mind. You are not an accident but an inevitability, given enough time and the right conditions. Complex patterns naturally emerge from simple rules, and you are the most complex pattern we know of, billions of neurons working together, creating thoughts, feelings, consciousness itself. Sleep deeply, dreaming perhaps of ancient seas or distant stars, of the first cells dividing or the first footsteps on land. Dream of the long journey that brought you here, the survival of your ancestors through ice ages and disasters, through famines and plagues, through countless dangers. Each one succeeding in living long enough to reproduce, passing their genes down through the generations until finally, against all odds, you came to be. This is your birthright, this deep history, this connection to all of life, to the earth itself, to the cosmos beyond. You are made of recycled material, atoms that have existed since the beginning, perhaps once part of a star, then drifting through space, then part of the cloud that formed our solar system, then part of the early Earth, then cycled through countless organisms before becoming part of you. Nothing about you is truly new, and yet the particular arrangement, the specific combination, is unique, has never existed before, and will never exist again in quite this way. Breathe slowly, deeply, feeling your body, this temporary organization of ancient atoms, this brief eddy in the river of time. You are both insignificant and profoundly important, a tiny speck in an incomprehensibly vast universe, yet also a rare and precious example of complexity, awareness, understanding. The universe is vast, mostly empty space, but here, on this small blue world, something remarkable has happened. Matter has organized itself into living systems, and some of those systems have become aware, able to contemplate their own existence, to wonder about their origins, to create art and music and stories, to love, to dream, to imagine futures that do not yet exist. As you sleep, the Earth continues its journey through space, orbiting the Sun at 67,000 miles per hour. The Sun orbiting the galactic center at nearly 500,000 miles per hour, the galaxy itself moving through space. You are traveling through the cosmos at tremendous speeds, yet you feel still, at rest, peaceful. This is the relativity of motion. All velocities are relative to something else. To you, lying still, the Earth seems motionless, but from a cosmic perspective, everything is in motion, everything is process, everything is becoming. Nothing is static, not even the atoms that make up your body. Your cells are constantly dying and being replaced, your molecules being exchanged with the environment. You breathe in oxygen from the air, oxygen that was perhaps breathed out by a tree, oxygen created by photosynthesis, using energy from the sun, energy created by nuclear fusion. Converting mass to energy, as Einstein's equation describes. You eat food, organic molecules created by plants and animals, molecules built from carbon dioxide in the air and water from the ground and minerals from the soil, all cycled through ecosystems, all ultimately powered by the sun, all part of the great web of life that covers this planet. You excrete waste, which becomes food for other organisms, continuing the cycle. You are not a closed system but an open one, constantly exchanging matter and energy with your surroundings, maintaining yourself far from equilibrium, which is the hallmark of life. Sleep now, releasing your thoughts, letting your mind wander where it will. The story of life is not finished. It continues, every moment, every day, evolution still operating, species still adapting, changing, going extinct, new ones emerging. Humans have become a force of nature ourselves, reshaping the planet, causing both destruction and creation. We face challenges our ancestors could not have imagined, but we also have capabilities they could not have dreamed of. We can read the book of life written in DNA. We can see back to the beginning of the universe. We can split atoms and join them. We can cure diseases and feed billions. We can communicate instantly across the globe. We can leave the planet and walk on other worlds. What we do with these capabilities will determine the future, not just for our species, but for countless others who share this planet with us. But tonight, let these concerns fade. Tonight, simply be, simply exist, simply breathe and rest. You are a wave in the ocean of being, rising for a moment, existing briefly, then subsiding back into the whole. This is not sad but natural, the way of all things. Every star eventually exhausts its fuel, every mountain eventually erodes, every organism eventually returns its atoms to the cycle. But while you exist, you are a miracle, a conscious bit of the universe able to know beauty, to feel love, to understand truth, to create meaning in a cosmos that would otherwise be silent and unknowing. Rest in this knowledge. Rest in the deep satisfaction of being connected to everything, of being part of the story, of being both an observer and a participant, both subject and object, both the universe looking out and the universe looking in at itself. Let sleep come naturally, easily, without effort or struggle. Let your breathing slow and deepen. Let your muscles relax. Let your thoughts drift and dissolve like clouds in a summer sky. You are safe here, held by gravity to this spinning world, protected by the atmosphere from the harshness of space, warmed by a stable star, sheltered by the magnetic field that deflects solar wind. Part of an ecosystem that provides everything you need. For millions of years, your ancestors survived by being vigilant, alert to danger, ready to fight or flee. But tonight you can rest. Tonight you can surrender to sleep, trusting in the resilience of your body, the recuperative power of rest. Sleep is when your body repairs itself, when your immune system does its most important work, when your brain consolidates learning and memory, when growth hormones are released. Sleep is not a passive state but an active process, essential for health, for well-being, for life itself. Even single-celled organisms show daily rhythms. Even plants track the day-night cycle. You are part of this ancient pattern, this response to the rotation of the Earth, this adaptation to living on a planet that turns, creating day and night, light and darkness, activity and rest. Embrace the darkness now, not as something to fear, but as a friend, a time of restoration, a necessary pause in the rhythm of life. In the darkness, seeds germinate, wounds heal, dreams take shape. Darkness is not the absence of light, but a different condition, with its own qualities, its own gifts. As you sink deeper into sleep, your brainwaves slow from the rapid beta waves of waking consciousness to the slower alpha waves of relaxation, then to the theta waves of light sleep, and finally to the deep delta waves of slow wave sleep, where true restoration occurs. Throughout the night, you will cycle through different stages, sometimes rising to REM sleep where rapid eye movements accompany vivid dreams, sometimes descending to the deepest sleep, where your body does its most important repair work. This is the natural rhythm, evolved over millions of years, the sleep architecture that serves you best. Trust in this process, this ancient wisdom of the body. You do not need to control your sleep, to force it or manage it. Simply allow it, simply surrender to it, simply let go. Your autonomic nervous system will handle everything, keeping your heart beating, your lungs breathing, your digestion working, your temperature regulated, all without any conscious effort from you. Your body knows what to do, has always known, carries within it the wisdom of billions of years of evolution, countless trials and successes, adaptations refined across innumerable generations. As you let go into sleep, remember that you are not alone, that millions of other humans are sleeping right now, all around the world, and billions of other animals, each in their own way, resting, recovering, dreaming perhaps. The earth itself seems to rest at night, though of course it is always day somewhere, the planet always half illuminated, half in darkness, a great sphere turning in space, carrying all of us along on its journey around the sun, and the sun's journey around the galaxy, and the galaxy's journey through the expanding universe. All of this happens while you sleep, these immense cosmic motions, these vast scales of time and space, all continuing, all proceeding according to natural law, all part of the great dance of existence. You are part of this dance, a brief note in an eternal symphony, a single thread in an infinite tapestry, and yet your thread is necessary, your note contributes to the whole. Your existence matters in ways both profound and mysterious. Sleep well, dream deeply, rest fully, knowing that when you wake, the world will still be here. The sun will rise again as it has for billions of years. Life will continue. And you will have another day to experience this extraordinary gift of existence, another opportunity to participate in the unfolding of the universe, another chance to live, to love, to learn, to grow, to be. Until then, until morning comes and light returns, rest here in the darkness, cradled by time, held by space, part of everything that is, was, or ever will be. You are the universe dreaming itself into being, consciousness emerging from matter, awareness arising from complexity, mind from brain, thought from neural networks, understanding from experience. Rest now, let it all go. Let yourself dissolve into sleep like a drop of water returning to the ocean, losing your individual form but not your essence, becoming part of the greater whole. The collective unconscious perhaps, the field of being that underlies all existence. These are mysteries that exceed our understanding, questions that philosophy and science have pondered for centuries. What is consciousness? How does matter become aware? What is the relationship between mind and brain, between the physical and the experiential? We do not have complete answers to these questions, but we can still marvel at the mystery, still appreciate the wonder of our own existence, still feel gratitude for this improbable gift of life and awareness. As you drift now between waking and sleeping, in that liminal space where thoughts become dreams and logic gives way to image and symbol, know that you are experiencing something precious, something remarkable, something that took the universe billions of years to create. Your consciousness is not separate from the physical world, but an expression of it, an emergent property of complex organization, a phase transition in the arrangement of matter. Similar perhaps to how water becomes ice at the freezing point, how individual molecules suddenly lock into a crystalline structure, creating something with entirely new properties. Your brain, with its 86 billion neurons, each connected to thousands of others, creating trillions of synapses, is the most complex structure we know of, more intricate than any galaxy, more subtle than any ecosystem, more mysterious than the quantum realm. And yet it arose naturally, through the patient work of evolution, through random mutation and natural selection, through the survival of those ancestors who had slightly better brains, slightly better ability to perceive, to think, to plan, to cooperate. Intelligence was adaptive, consciousness conferred advantages, and so here you are, the inheritor of this long experiment, this evolutionary journey toward greater complexity, greater awareness. Sleep now in peace, knowing you are exactly where you should be, exactly what you should be, a human being, a thinking, feeling organism, a conscious participant in the vast drama of existence. The universe is not indifferent to you, for you are not separate from it, you are it, experiencing itself from a particular perspective, a particular point of view, a particular configuration of matter and energy and information. When you sleep and dream, the universe dreams through you. When you wake and think, the universe thinks through you. When you feel love or joy or wonder, the universe feels these things through you. You are the eyes through which the cosmos sees itself, the ears through which it hears itself, the mind through which it knows itself. This is not mysticism but reality, the simple truth that you are made of the same stuff as everything else, governed by the same laws, part of the same whole. Different only in the particular arrangement, the specific organization, the unique pattern that is you. And this pattern, while temporary, while fleeting, is real and valid and worthwhile, deserving of care and compassion, worthy of rest and restoration. So rest now, deeply and completely, knowing you are held by forces greater than yourself, by gravity that keeps you grounded, by the atmosphere that protects you, by the ecosystem that supports you, by the society that sustains you, by billions of years of history that led to this moment, to you, here, now, alive and aware, and experiencing this magnificent, mysterious, bewildering, beautiful existence we call life. Good night, sleep well, dream sweetly of the long journey that brought you here, the deep time that created you, the vast space that surrounds you, the brief time that is yours to live, to love, to be. May you wake refreshed and renewed, ready to continue your journey, to write your chapter in the ongoing story of life on earth, to contribute your verse to the great poem of existence. Until then, until morning, until the light returns and a new day begins, rest here in the ancient darkness, the primal night, the restful void from which all things emerge and to which all things return, the great mystery that holds us all. Continue to breathe slowly, deeply, letting each breath carry you deeper into relaxation, deeper into peace, deeper into the timeless state where past and future dissolve, and only the present moment exists, eternal and perfect. Think of the water molecules in your body, each one a simple arrangement of 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom, yet together creating the medium of life, the solvent in which all biochemical reactions occur. Water is ancient, most of it formed in the early solar system, some perhaps even older, created in interstellar clouds. The water you drank today, the water in your cells, has been cycling through the Earth system for billions of years, evaporating from oceans, falling as rain, flowing in rivers, locked in ice, absorbed by plants, drunk by animals, exhaled, excreted, filtered through soil, returned to the sea again and again in an endless cycle. Some of the water molecules in your body might have been in a dinosaur once, or in a fern from a carboniferous swamp, or in the first fish to crawl onto land, or in the clouds above an ancient ocean. Water connects you to all life that has ever existed, all life that exists now, all life that will exist in the future. It is the universal medium, the common element, present in every cell, essential for every living process. Without water, there would be no life as we know it, no proteins folding into complex shapes, no DNA carrying information, no metabolism converting nutrients to energy. Water shaped the earth itself, carving canyons, creating sediments, weathering rock, distributing minerals, moderating climate, making this planet habitable. Rest in this knowledge, this understanding of your connection to the great cycles of nature, the biogeochemical cycles that move elements through different spheres of the Earth system, the atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere, biosphere, all interconnected, all in constant exchange. Carbon cycles through the atmosphere as carbon dioxide, absorbed by plants through photosynthesis, built into organic molecules, eaten by animals, respired back to the atmosphere, or buried in sediments to become fossil fuels, eventually released again through volcanic activity or human combustion. Nitrogen cycles from the atmosphere, where it makes up 78% of the air, fixed by bacteria into forms plants can use, incorporated into amino acids and proteins, pass through food chains, decomposed by bacteria, return to the atmosphere. Phosphorus cycles through rock, weathered into soil, absorbed by plants, eaten by animals, built into bones and DNA, returned to soil through decay, eventually washed into the ocean where it settles into sediments, and millions of years later may be uplifted in new mountains to begin the cycle again. You are a temporary home for these elements, these atoms that have cycled through the Earth system countless times, that will continue cycling long after you are gone, that connect you to all other life, to the rocks and oceans and atmosphere, to the planet itself. Close your eyes now if they are not already closed, and imagine you can see deep time stretching out before and behind you, billions of years in both directions. A vast landscape of time through which matter and energy flow, taking different forms, creating different patterns, but always conserving, always continuing, nothing truly created or destroyed, only transformed from one state to another. The first law of thermodynamics tells us that energy cannot be created or destroyed, only changed in form. The energy in your body, the heat you radiate, the electrical signals in your neurons, the chemical bonds in your molecules, all of this energy has existed since the Big Bang. Transformed countless times but never lost, eternal and conserved. The second law tells us that entropy, disorder, tends to increase in closed systems, but you are not a closed system. You are an open system far from equilibrium. Maintaining your ordered state by consuming low entropy energy from food and radiating high entropy heat to your environment, borrowing order from your surroundings, creating a temporary island of complexity in a universe trending toward disorder. This is what life does. It fights entropy locally by increasing it globally. It maintains itself far from equilibrium through constant work, constant energy input, constant exchange with the environment. When you stop eating, stop breathing, stop maintaining yourself, you will drift toward equilibrium, your molecules will disperse, your atoms will join the great cycles. Your energy will radiate away as heat, and the temporary pattern that is you will dissolve. But this is not for many years yet, not for many decades if you are fortunate, so do not fear it now. Do not dwell on endings when you are still so vibrant and alive. Instead, simply rest, simply be, simply allow yourself to experience this moment this night, this peaceful state of relaxation and restoration. Your heart beats steadily, about 60 to 100 times per minute while you rest, pumping blood through your body, delivering oxygen and nutrients to every cell, removing waste products. Maintaining homeostasis, that delicate balance of conditions that allows life to continue. Your heart is a marvel of biological engineering, a muscular pump that beats about 3 billion times in an average lifetime, never resting, never pausing, working constantly from before you were born until the moment of death. The structure of your heart, with its 4 chambers and one-way valves, evolved over millions of years from the simple tubular heart of early fish to the complex 4-chambered organ of mammals and birds. Each beat is coordinated by electrical signals, initiated by a specialized patch of cells called the sinoatrial node, your natural pacemaker, which generates rhythmic impulses that spread through the heart muscle, causing the chambers to contract in sequence, first the atria, then the ventricles, creating the familiar lub-dub sound of the heartbeat. Listen to your heartbeat now if you can perceive it, that steady rhythm, that ancient pulse, that fundamental meter of life. It is the sound of you being alive, the sound of blood flowing, of oxygen being delivered, of life being maintained. It connects you to all vertebrates, all animals with hearts. From tiny hummingbirds whose hearts beat over 1,000 times per minute, to massive blue whales whose hearts beat just a few times per minute, each adapted to their size and metabolism, each variation on the same fundamental theme. Your lungs expand and contract, drawing in air rich in oxygen, expelling air rich in carbon dioxide, facilitating gas exchange through tiny air sacs called alveoli, each surrounded by a network of capillaries where red blood cells pick up oxygen and release carbon dioxide. The surface area of your lungs, if spread flat, would cover about 70 square meters, roughly the size of a tennis court, all folded and packed into your chest cavity. A masterpiece of efficient design. Each breath brings in about half a liter of air, about 12 to 20 breaths per minute at rest, slowing now as you relax and prepare for sleep. The oxygen you breathe was created by photosynthesis, primarily by ocean phytoplankton and by forests, those great green lungs of the earth, absorbing carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen, reversing the process that occurs in your cells where oxygen is used to break down glucose, releasing energy and producing carbon dioxide and water. This complementary relationship between photosynthesis and respiration has existed for billions of years, creating a balance that maintains the composition of Earth's atmosphere, making it breathable, making complex life possible. Before photosynthetic organisms evolved and oxygenated the atmosphere, complex animal life could not exist. We owe our existence to those ancient cyanobacteria that first learned to split water molecules and release oxygen, changing the planet forever, creating the conditions that would eventually allow our evolution. As you breathe now, slowly and deeply, you participate in this ancient exchange, this partnership between plants and animals, between oxygen producers and oxygen consumers, this beautiful balance that sustains the biosphere. Let your breathing become slower, deeper, more regular, as happens naturally as you approach sleep. Deep breathing stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system, calming your body, lowering your heart rate, reducing blood pressure, promoting relaxation and healing. This is the opposite of the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight response, which prepares you for action, for danger, for stress. In modern life, the sympathetic system is often overactive, triggered by psychological stresses that don't require physical action, keeping us in a state of chronic activation that can harm health. Sleep is when the parasympathetic system dominates, when your body shifts into repair mode, when healing happens, when balance is restored. Trust in this process, surrender to it, let your body do what it knows how to do, what it has been doing every night of your life, what it learned to do over millions of years of evolution, what it will continue to do as long as you live. Your digestive system continues its work even as you sleep, breaking down the food you ate today, extracting nutrients, absorbing them into your bloodstream, eliminating waste. This process involves dozens of organs, hundreds of different cell types, thousands of different enzymes and other proteins, all working together in a coordinated dance of chemistry and physics. Food enters your mouth, is chewed by teeth that are descended from the scales of ancient fish, mixed with saliva containing enzymes that begin breaking down starches. It travels down your esophagus through peristalsis, rhythmic muscular contractions that push food along, into your stomach where acid and more enzymes break it down further, churning it into a liquid called chyme. This moves into your small intestine, where most nutrient absorption occurs, through finger-like projections called villi that increase surface area enormously. Each villus containing a network of blood vessels and lymph vessels that absorb the products of digestion. What remains moves into your large intestine, where water is absorbed and bacteria, trillions of beneficial microorganisms that live in your gut, break down remaining material, producing vitamins and other useful compounds, a relationship of mutual benefit that has existed for millions of years. Your gut microbiome, the community of bacteria and other microorganisms living in your digestive system, contains more cells than your entire body, represents thousands of different species, weighs several pounds, and plays crucial roles in digestion, immune function, and even mood and behavior through the gut-brain connection. You are not an individual organism but a holobiont, a community of organisms living together, mostly in cooperation, sometimes in conflict, but always interdependent. This reflects the fundamental truth of biology, that life is relational, exists in networks, depends on connections and exchanges, thrives through cooperation as much as competition. The romantic image of the lone organism struggling for survival misses half the picture. Yes, natural selection involves competition, but it also involves cooperation, symbiosis, mutual aid. The cells in your body are descendants of once independent bacteria that learned to cooperate so thoroughly that they became one organism. The mitochondria in your cells, those powerhouses that generate energy, were once free-living bacteria that entered into partnership with larger cells billions of years ago. Your gut bacteria help you digest food you could not otherwise digest, in exchange for a warm, nutrient-rich environment to live in. Plants could not survive without fungi that help their roots absorb nutrients from soil. Coral reefs could not exist without symbiotic algae living in the coral tissues. Cooperation, partnership, mutual benefit, these are as much a part of evolution as competition and conflict, perhaps more fundamental, certainly more beautiful. Rest now in the knowledge that you are supported, connected, part of larger systems, not alone but embedded in webs of relationship that sustain and nourish you. Your immune system works constantly to protect you, identifying and eliminating pathogens, bacteria, viruses, fungi, parasites, cancer cells, any threat to your integrity. This system is incredibly complex, involving many different types of white blood cells, antibodies, signaling molecules, organs like the thymus and spleen, and a memory function that allows you to develop immunity to diseases you have encountered before. Your immune system can distinguish self from non-self, though sometimes it makes mistakes, attacking your own tissues in autoimmune diseases or overreacting to harmless substances in allergies. It is constantly learning, adapting, responding to new threats, a biological defense network more sophisticated than any human-designed security system. The immune system also illustrates the paradox of individuality. What exactly are you defending? Your cells are constantly dying and being replaced, most of them turning over completely within weeks or months. Your gut contains trillions of bacteria that are not you genetically, but are essential for your health. You carry viruses in your DNA, remnants of ancient infections that became part of your genome. The boundary between self and other is fuzzy, negotiated, constantly shifting. You are more a process than a thing, more a pattern than a substance, more a verb than a noun. This is not a problem to solve, but a reality to accept, even to celebrate. You are change itself, transformation in action, becoming rather than being. As you lie here preparing to sleep, your body temperature is dropping slightly, as it does every night, another circadian rhythm controlled by your internal biological clock. Located in a tiny region of your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. This clock responds to light and dark, synchronizing your body's many rhythms to the 24-hour day, controlling when you feel sleepy and when you feel alert, when hormones are released, when body temperature rises and falls, when metabolism speeds up and slows down. This clock exists in nearly all organisms, from cyanobacteria to humans, an ancient adaptation to living on a rotating planet, to the regular alternation of day and night that has been a feature of Earth for billions of years. Before electric lighting, humans lived more in sync with this natural rhythm, waking with sunrise, sleeping after sunset, spending evenings around fires, telling stories, maintaining social bonds, preparing for rest. Modern life, with artificial light and 24-hour schedules, often conflicts with these ancient rhythms, leading to sleep deprivation and circadian disruption that can harm health. But tonight, You honor the ancient pattern. You follow the natural rhythm. You allow darkness and stillness to signal to your body that it is time to rest, to restore, to prepare for tomorrow. Let yourself sink deeper now, feeling heavy, feeling relaxed, feeling the pull of sleep growing stronger with each breath, each moment. Each thought releasing and dissolving into the approaching ocean of sleep. You are a tiny wave on the surface of this ocean, about to merge back into the depths, about to lose your separate identity temporarily, about to experience the strange altered state of consciousness we call sleep, where logic dissolves and anything can happen, where you might fly without wings or breathe underwater, where time is fluid and space is mutable, where the laws of physics need not apply and impossible things seem perfectly natural. Dreams are strange, mysterious, not fully understood even by modern neuroscience. They seem to serve multiple functions: processing emotions, consolidating memories, practicing responses to threats, maintaining neural networks, perhaps just random noise. The brain activating itself to prevent neural pathways from degrading during the long hours of inactivity. Whatever their ultimate purpose or lack thereof, dreams are a universal human experience, reported in all cultures, depicted in ancient art and literature, a source of wonder and sometimes fear, inspiration and confusion. Some cultures place great importance on dreams, seeing them as messages from the gods or glimpses of other realities. Modern science tends to see them as purely internal, generated by the brain, but no less fascinating for that. The fact that your brain can create entire worlds, populate them with people and places, generate narratives and emotions, all without external input, all from its own activity, is remarkable. A testament to the creative power of the mind, the reality-generating capacity of consciousness. As you dream tonight, you will be experiencing your own creativity, your own imagination, unleashed from the constraints of waking logic and sensory input. Free to combine memories and ideas in novel ways, to explore scenarios and emotions, to practice being, to experience being, to simply be, without judgment or interpretation. Without the censoring analytical mind that monitors and evaluates during waking hours. Let dreams come as they will, without trying to control or direct them, without trying to remember or analyze them. They will serve their purpose whether you remember them or not, whether they make sense or not, whether they are pleasant or disturbing. They are part of the sleep process, part of the restoration of body and mind, part of being human, part of having a brain, part of being alive. Trust in the process, trust in the ancient wisdom of sleep, trust in the 4 billion years of evolution that shaped your nervous system, your brain, your mind, your consciousness. All of it adapted for survival, all of it functional, all of it serving you well even when you do not understand exactly how it works. You do not need to understand how your heart beats to benefit from it beating. You do not need to understand digestion to benefit from it. You do not need to understand sleep to benefit from it. You can simply allow it, accept it, surrender to it, let it happen naturally as it wants to happen, as it is already beginning to happen, as you feel yourself drifting now, floating, dissolving, merging with the darkness, becoming one with the night, letting go of everything, all thoughts, all concerns, all identity, all separation, just being, just existing. Just experiencing this moment of peace, this moment of rest, this moment of perfect stillness at the end of a long day, at the end of a long journey, at the end of a long story that began nearly 14 billion years ago and will continue for billions more, with or without you, but richer for your participation, more beautiful for your existence, more meaningful for your consciousness, your ability to know and appreciate and wonder at it all. Sleep now deeply and completely until morning calls you back to waking life, to another day, another opportunity, another chapter in your story, another moment to exist, to experience. to be alive in this magnificent, mysterious, ever-changing universe. Good night, sleep well, dream beautifully, rest deeply, knowing you are exactly where you need to be, exactly what you need to be, exactly who you need to be, perfect in your imperfection, complete in your incompleteness, whole in your brokenness, loved and valued and important, a unique expression of the universe's infinite creativity, a temporary but precious manifestation of matter becoming aware of itself, consciousness emerging from the void, light arising in darkness, life persisting against entropy, meaning being created where none existed before. You are a miracle, not in a supernatural sense, but in a natural one, the inevitable yet improbable result of billions of years of cosmic and biological evolution. The product of stars living and dying, of planets forming and evolving, of life emerging and diversifying, of consciousness appearing and reflecting on itself. Rest now in this knowledge, this deep understanding of your place in the cosmos, your connection to everything, your temporary but real existence, your brief but meaningful journey through space and time. May your sleep be peaceful, your dreams gentle, your rest complete, your morning bright with possibility and hope. Continue now to sink deeper into relaxation, deeper into peace, as we explore more of the magnificent story of life, the intricate details of how living systems work, the beautiful complexity that exists at every level of organization, from atoms to organisms to ecosystems to the entire biosphere. Consider the proteins in your cells, those molecular machines that do most of the actual work of life. Each protein is a chain of amino acids, folded into a specific three-dimensional shape determined by the sequence of amino acids, and that shape determines the protein's function. Some proteins catalyze chemical reactions as enzymes, speeding up reactions that would otherwise take years or centuries, allowing metabolism to occur at the pace life requires. Some proteins provide structure, like collagen in your skin and tendons, or keratin in your hair and nails, or actin and myosin in your muscles. Some proteins transport molecules, like hemoglobin carrying oxygen in your blood. Some proteins defend against disease, the antibodies of your immune system. Some proteins receive signals, the receptors on cell surfaces that respond to hormones and neurotransmitters. Some proteins control gene expression, turning genes on and off in response to conditions. The diversity of protein functions is staggering, yet all proteins are made from combinations of just 20 amino acids, arranged in different sequences, folded into different shapes. This is like creating infinite variety from a simple alphabet, the same principle as language, where 26 letters can create all possible words, all possible books, all possible meaning. The information for making proteins is stored in DNA, that famous double helix, two strands wound around each other, held together by base pairs, adenine with thymine, guanine with cytosine. The genetic code, written in an alphabet of just 4 letters. This code is universal, the same in bacteria and redwood trees and humans, evidence of common ancestry, evidence that all life descends from a single origin billions of years ago. The DNA in your cells, if stretched out and laid end to end, would reach from here to the sun and back hundreds of times, yet it is all packed into the nucleus of each cell. Wound around proteins called histones, organized into chromosomes, compact and accessible. Every time a cell divides, all this DNA must be copied with remarkable accuracy, an amazing feat of molecular machinery involving dozens of different proteins working together, proofreading and error correcting, ensuring that the information is passed on faithfully to daughter cells. Mistakes do occur, mutations, changes in the DNA sequence, and these are the raw material of evolution, the source of variation upon which natural selection acts. Most mutations are neutral, having no effect on fitness. Some are harmful, reducing the organism's ability to survive and reproduce. A very few are beneficial, providing some advantage, and these tend to spread through populations over generations. This is the fundamental process of evolution, descent with modification, common ancestry plus natural selection. Simple in principle, yet capable of producing all the diversity of life we see around us. Evolution is not directed toward any goal, not progressive in any absolute sense, not trying to create complexity or intelligence or any particular outcome. It simply favors whatever works in the current environment, whatever helps organisms survive long enough to reproduce. Sometimes complexity increases, sometimes it decreases, sometimes organisms become more sophisticated, sometimes they become simpler. What matters is reproductive success, passing genes to the next generation, and there are many paths to this success. Bacteria have been phenomenally successful without becoming complex, remaining single-celled for billions of years, yet they have evolved sophisticated biochemical capabilities, diverse metabolisms. The ability to survive in nearly every environment on Earth, from boiling hot springs to Antarctic ice to deep underground. They are arguably more successful than we are, more numerous, more diverse, more adaptable, more likely to persist into the far future. Our complexity, our large brains, our consciousness, these are one strategy among many, successful for now but not necessarily superior in any absolute sense. This is humbling but also liberating, removing the burden of thinking we are the pinnacle of creation, the ultimate goal of evolution, the most important beings in the universe. We are one species among millions, remarkable in some ways but ordinary in others, part of the web of life rather than above it, dependent on other species for our survival. Interconnected with all living things through bonds of common descent and ecological relationships. As you rest here, your cells are performing countless tasks, each one a bustling city of molecular activity. In the cytoplasm, ribosomes are reading messenger RNA and building proteins, translating the genetic code into functional molecules. Mitochondria are generating ATP, the energy currency of the cell, through the process of cellular respiration. A complex series of chemical reactions that extracts energy from glucose and stores it in the bonds of ATP molecules. The endoplasmic reticulum is processing and packaging proteins. The Golgi apparatus is modifying them and sending them to their destinations. Lysosomes are breaking down worn-out cellular components, recycling their parts. The cytoskeleton, a network of protein filaments, is maintaining cell shape, enabling movement, transporting cargo within the cell. All of this happens constantly, in every cell, maintaining life, maintaining you. Zoom out from the cellular level to the tissue level, and you see cells working together, specialized for different functions but cooperating toward common goals. Epithelial tissue covers surfaces, protecting you from the environment, regulating what enters and leaves your body. Connective tissue provides structure and support, binding other tissues together, storing energy, providing immune function. Muscle tissue contracts, enabling movement, from the beating of your heart to the blinking of your eyes to the walking of your legs. Nervous tissue transmits information, the electrical and chemical signals that coordinate your body's activities, enable sensation, make thought possible. Zoom out again to the organ level, and you see tissues working together in even more complex arrangements. Your heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, brain, stomach, intestines, each organ a masterpiece of biological engineering, performing essential functions, contributing to the whole. Zoom out once more to the organism level, and you see yourself, a complete being, all systems working together, maintaining homeostasis, responding to environment, pursuing goals, experiencing life. But you are not isolated. You exist in an environment. You interact with other organisms. You are part of ecosystems, communities of living things interacting with each other and with their physical environment. Energy flows through ecosystems, from sunlight captured by plants, to herbivores eating plants, to carnivores eating herbivores, to decomposers breaking down dead matter and returning nutrients to the soil where they can be absorbed by plants again, completing the cycle. Matter cycles through ecosystems, the same atoms used again and again in different organisms, nothing wasted, everything recycled. A beautiful circular economy that has operated for billions of years without depleting resources or creating pollution, because everything is food for something else. Every waste product is a resource for another organism. Human civilization, by contrast, has created linear systems, taking resources, using them, discarding waste, depending on constant inputs of new resources and creating mounting piles of garbage. This is unsustainable in the long term, and we are beginning to realize we need to learn from natural ecosystems, to design circular systems, to close loops, to eliminate waste by ensuring it becomes input for other processes. Biomimicry, learning from nature, studying how natural systems solve problems and applying those lessons to human design, offers hope for creating a more sustainable civilization. Nature has had billions of years to solve problems through trial and error, to optimize designs, to find what works. We are foolish to ignore this vast library of solutions, this deep well of wisdom accumulated through evolutionary time. As you drift towards sleep, imagine the forests breathing, absorbing carbon dioxide, releasing oxygen, the opposite of what you do, creating a beautiful balance. A complementary relationship that sustains both plants and animals. Imagine the fungi in the soil, vast networks of thin threads called mycelium, connecting the roots of different trees, allowing them to share resources, to communicate in a sense, to support each other. Trees in a forest are not individuals competing in isolation, but members of a community, cooperating as well as competing, sharing nutrients through fungal networks, warning each other of insect attacks through chemical signals, supporting weaker members, even keeping ancient stumps alive for decades by feeding them through root connections. This challenges our individualistic assumptions, our tendency to see organisms as separate entities, our emphasis on competition over cooperation. The truth is more complex, more nuanced, more beautiful. Life is fundamentally relational, exists in webs of connection, thrives through both competition and cooperation, both conflict and mutualism, both individuality and community. You too are not an isolated individual, but a node in a vast network of relationships, connected to family and friends, to community and society, to your ecosystem and your planet, to the history of life and the cosmos itself. Rest in these connections, draw strength from them. Know that you are supported by them, held by them, made possible by them. No organism can exist alone. No one is self-made or self-sufficient. We all depend on others. We all benefit from the work and existence of countless other beings. Most of them we will never see or think about. Bacteria in the soil, plankton in the ocean, insects pollinating flowers, all contributing to the functioning of the biosphere, all making your life possible. Gratitude is the appropriate response to this realization, not pride or arrogance, but humility and thankfulness, appreciation for the gift of existence, awareness of how contingent and improbable it is, how easily it could have been otherwise, how much had to go right for you to be here. Breathe slowly now, feeling your chest rise and fall, feeling air moving in and out, feeling the ancient rhythm of respiration, the exchange of gases that powers your metabolism. That keeps you alive moment by moment. Think of the oxygen molecules entering your lungs, diffusing across the thin membranes of the alveoli into your bloodstream, binding to hemoglobin molecules in red blood cells, being carried through your arteries to your tissues, diffusing into cells, entering mitochondria, being used in the final steps of cellular respiration to help generate ATP. This process, aerobic respiration, is remarkably efficient, extracting far more energy from glucose than anaerobic processes like fermentation. This is why complex multicellular life requires oxygen, why the oxygenation of Earth's atmosphere was such a pivotal event in the history of life. Before oxygen, only small, simple organisms could exist, limited by the inefficiency of anaerobic metabolism. After oxygen, complexity became possible, size became possible, movement became possible, brains became possible, consciousness became possible. You are here because ancient cyanobacteria polluted the atmosphere with oxygen, their waste product becoming your necessity, their poison becoming your breath of life. Evolution repurposes, recycles, transforms problems into opportunities, turns waste into resources, finds ways forward even through catastrophes and crises. The history of life is not smooth progress, but a story of disasters survived, extinctions endured, recoveries achieved, innovations emerging from destruction. 5 times in the past half-billion years, mass extinctions have wiped out most species on Earth. Yet life persists, rebounds, diversifies again, explores new forms, fills empty niches, continues. The most recent mass extinction, the one that killed the dinosaurs, was caused by an asteroid impact, a random cosmic accident, yet it opened up opportunities for mammals, including, eventually, your ancestors. If that asteroid had missed Earth, mammals might have remained small and marginal, dinosaurs might still dominate, you would not exist. Contingency, chance, randomness, these play huge roles in history, both cosmic and biological. Small changes in initial conditions lead to vastly different outcomes. This is chaos theory, sensitivity to initial conditions, the butterfly effect where tiny perturbations can cascade into massive differences. History is not predetermined, not following some inevitable path, not guided by any purpose or plan, but constantly branching, exploring possibilities, creating the future moment by moment through the interaction of law and chance, necessity and contingency, pattern and randomness. You are the product of this process, neither fully determined nor fully random, neither purely lawful nor purely chaotic, but a complex mixture. A pattern emerging from the interplay of order and disorder, a temporary stable form in a universe of constant flux. Sleep now is coming closer. You can feel it approaching, the heaviness in your limbs, the slowing of your thoughts, the dimming of your awareness, the gentle dissolution of your focus as you drift toward unconsciousness. This is natural, healthy, necessary, the rhythm of waking and sleeping that all animals with nervous systems exhibit, another of the many cycles that structure life on Earth. Let yourself go with it, let yourself sink into it, trusting that you will wake again in the morning, that sleep is temporary, that this is not an ending but a pause, not a loss but a restoration. In sleep you are not gone but transformed, not absent but present in a different mode, not dead but deeply alive, your body working hard to repair and maintain itself. Your brain active in different ways, your unconscious mind processing the experiences of the day, integrating them, making sense of them, preparing you for tomorrow. Sleep is not wasted time but essential time, not laziness but necessity, not indulgence but requirement. Without adequate sleep, health declines, cognition suffers, mood worsens, immunity weakens, accidents increase. Sleep is when growth hormone is released, when muscles repair themselves, when memories consolidate, when neural connections strengthen or weaken based on use. When the brain clears away metabolic waste products that accumulate during waking hours. Recent research has discovered that the brain has a system called the glymphatic system, analogous to the lymphatic system in the rest of the body, that clears away waste products. And this system is most active during sleep. While you sleep, your brain is literally cleaning itself, flushing away toxins, preparing for another day of activity. This is yet another reason sleep is so important, why chronic sleep deprivation is so harmful, why you should honor your body's need for rest. Modern society often treats sleep as optional, as something to sacrifice for productivity, as weakness or laziness, but this is deeply misguided. A cultural value that conflicts with biological reality. You cannot cheat biology. You cannot override millions of years of evolution with willpower or coffee. You cannot sustain health without adequate rest. So rest now without guilt, without feeling you should be doing something else, without treating sleep as wasted time. Sleep is an investment in your health, your performance, your well-being, your future. Sleep is honoring your biology, respecting your needs, caring for yourself, practicing self-compassion. As you settle into sleep, your brain waves will change from the rapid beta waves of waking to slower alpha waves, then to theta waves of light sleep, where you might experience hypnagogic imagery. Those strange visual patterns and fleeting images that sometimes appear as you fall asleep, fragments of dreams, meaningless neural activity perhaps, or meaningful symbolic content, depending on how you interpret them. Then you will descend into deeper sleep characterized by slow delta waves, where you are hardest to wake, where your body does its deepest restoration work. After a period of deep sleep, you will rise back toward lighter sleep and enter REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, where most vivid dreams occur, where your eyes move rapidly beneath closed lids, where your muscles are paralyzed to prevent you from acting out your dreams, where your brain is nearly as active as when you are awake, but the activity has a different quality. Not responding to external stimuli, but generating internal experiences. You will cycle through these stages multiple times during the night, each cycle lasting about 90 minutes, each serving different functions, all necessary for complete rest and restoration. The architecture of sleep, the pattern of stages, has been shaped by evolution, by millions of years of selection, by what works best for maintaining health and function. Trust in this architecture, trust in this pattern, trust in the wisdom of your body and brain to move through the night as they should, to spend the right amount of time in each stage, to wake you in the morning refreshed and restored. You need do nothing to make this happen. It will happen automatically, managed by systems far below the level of conscious awareness. Managed by the brainstem and hypothalamus and other ancient structures, operating according to programs refined over evolutionary time. You can let go of control, let go of trying, let go of effort, and simply allow sleep to take you, to carry you through the night, to bring you safely to morning. Feel now the deepening relaxation in your body, the release of tension in your muscles, the slowing of your heartbeat, the deepening of your breath. Feel your thoughts becoming more scattered, less coherent, harder to hold onto, flowing past like clouds, arising and dissolving without effort or intention. You do not need to follow your thoughts, do not need to engage with them, can simply let them be, let them flow. Let them fade into the background as awareness itself begins to dim and dissolve. This is the edge of sleep, the threshold between waking and sleeping, the liminal space where you are neither fully conscious nor fully unconscious, where strange things can happen, where creativity sometimes sparks, where solutions to problems sometimes appear, where the boundaries between self and world become fluid and permeable. Many creative people throughout history have valued this threshold state, this hypnagogic zone, and have developed practices to access it, to capture the insights and images that arise here before they fade into sleep or dissipate into waking. Salvador Dali reportedly would hold a key while sitting in a chair, letting himself drift towards sleep until the key fell from his relaxing hand, the sound waking him so he could record the surreal images from the edge of sleep. Thomas Edison apparently used a similar technique with ball bearings. The hypnagogic state offers a glimpse into the creative power of the unconscious mind, the way it makes novel connections, recombines memories and ideas, generates unexpected insights. But tonight you need not hold on to anything, need not try to capture or remember, can simply let yourself drift all the way into sleep, surrendering completely, releasing everything, merging with the darkness, becoming one with the night. Consider now the mystery of consciousness itself, that most intimate and immediate fact of your existence, the felt quality of experience, the what it is like to be you, the subjective inner world that only you can access directly. Consciousness is perhaps the deepest mystery remaining in science, the hard problem as philosopher David Chalmers called it. The question of how physical processes in the brain give rise to subjective experience, how neurons firing becomes awareness, how matter becomes mind. We have made tremendous progress understanding the neural correlates of consciousness, the brain activity associated with different conscious states, the regions involved in different aspects of experience, the way information is integrated and processed. We can predict with reasonable accuracy what you are conscious of based on brain scans, can distinguish between conscious and unconscious processing, can even communicate with people in vegetative states by observing their brain activity. But none of this explains why there is something it is like to have these brain states, why consciousness exists at all, why we are not philosophical zombies, behaving exactly as we do, but without any inner experience. This explanatory gap remains, and it is unclear whether it can be bridged by science as currently practiced, or whether some fundamental new understanding is needed, or whether consciousness is simply irreducible, a basic feature of reality like mass or charge, not explicable in terms of anything more fundamental. Some philosophers argue that consciousness is an illusion, that there is no real mystery, that once we understand the brain well enough the problem will dissolve. Others argue that consciousness is fundamental, that matter itself has some primitive form of awareness, that human consciousness is a complex form of something present at all levels of reality. Still others argue that consciousness emerges from certain types of information processing, that it arises when a system integrates information in particular ways, that it is a property of complex systems rather than individual particles. We do not know which, if any, of these views is correct. We do not even know if the question is well formed. If consciousness, as we conceive it, picks out something real and unified, rather than a collection of different phenomena that we lump together. But whatever consciousness is, you have it. You are experiencing it right now, this immediate present awareness, this stream of sensations and thoughts and feelings, this subjective perspective on the world and yourself. This is undeniable, the one thing you cannot doubt, as Descartes pointed out, because the act of doubting itself requires consciousness. You might doubt whether the external world exists, whether other people have minds, whether your memories are accurate, but you cannot doubt that you are having experiences right now, that there is something it is like to be you, that consciousness exists for you. This is the starting point, the foundation, the irreducible fact upon which everything else rests. And yet it is so familiar we usually take it for granted, rarely pausing to marvel at it, to wonder at the sheer improbability and strangeness of awareness, of being rather than not being, of experiencing rather than simply processing information without any inner life. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, you have an opportunity to notice consciousness, to observe it changing, to watch awareness dim and dissolve, to experience the transition between states, to glimpse the constructed nature of your experience, the way your brain creates your reality moment by moment, interpreting sensory input, filling in gaps, creating the seamless, unified experience you call your consciousness. In truth, consciousness is not seamless, not unified, not continuous, but fragmented, multiple, constantly constructed and reconstructed, with gaps and jumps we do not notice, with blind spots we cannot perceive, with limitations and biases we are mostly unaware of. Your visual field has a blind spot where the optic nerve exits the eye, but you never notice it because your brain fills it in, invents information to complete the picture. Your attention is narrow, focused on only a tiny fraction of available information at any moment, yet you feel you are aware of a rich, detailed world. This is an illusion, your brain creating a compelling simulation, a model of the world that is good enough for survival but not a complete or accurate representation of reality. Consciousness is a user interface, evolved not to show you truth but to help you survive and reproduce, emphasizing what is relevant to your goals, filtering out what is not, constructing a simplified and interpreted version of reality that you can navigate and act upon. This realization can be disconcerting, calling into question the reliability of your perceptions, the accuracy of your beliefs, the trustworthiness of your memories. But it can also be liberating, helping you understand that your experience is constructed, that you have some flexibility in how you interpret and respond to it, that you are not trapped by your perception, but can cultivate different ways of experiencing, different perspectives, different modes of consciousness. Meditation practices, for example, train you to observe your experience more carefully, to notice the constant change, the arising and passing of thoughts and sensations, the constructed nature of the self, the possibility of different relationships to experience, less reactive, less identified, more spacious and accepting. Sleep offers another kind of letting go, a natural meditation in a sense, a surrender of the waking self, a temporary dissolution of the boundaries and categories that structure conscious experience. An opportunity to rest not just the body but the mind itself, to give up the effort of maintaining awareness, of constructing experience, of being someone. In sleep you are nobody, nowhere, no-one, free from the constraints of identity and time and place, dissolved into pure potential, pure possibility, pure being without specific content. This can sound frightening if you are very identified with your waking self, your personality, your story, your identity, but it is actually profoundly restful. A mini death and rebirth that happens every night, a rhythm of dissolution and reconstitution that keeps you flexible, prevents you from becoming too rigid, too stuck, too identified with any particular form or state. You are not who you think you are, not fundamentally, not at the deepest level. You are the awareness in which all experience arises, the consciousness that knows all states but is not limited to any state, the witness that observes all content but is not itself content, the space in which life unfolds but is not itself any particular event or thing. This is a perspective from some contemplative traditions. Whether it is literally true or simply a useful way of relating to experience is an open question, but either way it can be helpful, offering a sense of stability and peace beneath the constant change of the surface, a sense that you are more than your circumstances, more than your history, more than your thoughts and feelings and sensations, more even than your body and brain, though exactly what more means in this context is unclear and perhaps ultimately ineffable, beyond words, beyond concepts, only directly knowable through immediate experience. Tonight you need not resolve these deep questions, need not understand the mystery of consciousness, can simply experience it, live it, be it, as you always have been, as you cannot help but be, as long as you exist. Let yourself relax now into the mystery, accepting not knowing, embracing uncertainty, being okay with questions that have no answers, or at least no answers you can articulate or understand. Life is full of mystery. Reality is stranger than we can conceive. Consciousness is the deepest mystery of all, and that is okay. That is as it should be. That is part of the wonder and beauty of existence. You do not need to solve the riddle, do not need to figure it all out, can simply live, simply experience, simply be, allowing life to unfold, allowing consciousness to arise and subside, allowing sleep to come and waking to return, riding the waves of existence without needing to control them, without needing to understand them, without needing them to be other than they are. This is acceptance, this is surrender, this is peace, and it is available right now in this moment as you lie here breathing, existing, aware, poised on the edge of sleep, about to let go into the vast darkness, the healing void, the restorative emptiness where the self dissolves and reforms, where tired neurons rest and recover, where the organism restores itself to wholeness. Think now of the future, the long timeline that stretches ahead, not just your personal future but the future of life on Earth, the future of the universe itself. The sun will continue shining for another 5 billion years, slowly growing brighter as it ages, eventually becoming hot enough to boil the oceans, to strip away the atmosphere, to render Earth uninhabitable. Life on Earth's surface will likely end in about 1 billion years as the sun grows too hot, though life might persist underground or in the oceans for longer. Eventually, the sun will exhaust its hydrogen fuel and expand into a red giant, swallowing the inner planets including possibly Earth, or at least scorching it to a lifeless cinder. This is the inevitable fate of our planet, billions of years from now, so far in the future it is hard to conceive, but the universe is patient, time is long, eventually all things end. But before that end, much can happen, much will happen. Humanity, if we survive, will change and evolve, might spread to other worlds, might become something we cannot currently imagine, might develop technologies that seem like magic to us, might solve problems we think are insoluble, might answer questions we think are unanswerable. Or we might go extinct, a brief flash in cosmic history, a species that arose and fell in a geological instant, one more experiment that did not last. We cannot know which future awaits us, cannot predict with certainty, can only make choices in the present that nudge probability one way or another, can only do our best with the knowledge and resources we have, can only hope that wisdom grows as fast as power, that compassion expands as rapidly as capability, that we learn to cooperate and care for each other, and for the web of life that sustains us before it is too late. These are challenges for the waking world, for tomorrow and the days after, not for tonight, not for this moment of rest and release. Tonight you can let go of the future, let go of the past, let go of concerns and plans and worries, and simply be here, now, in this body, in this breath, in this moment of peace before sleep. The universe has been unfolding for nearly 14 billion years and will continue for trillions more. Stars will keep forming and dying. Galaxies will keep colliding and merging. The universe will keep expanding, perhaps forever, growing colder and emptier, eventually reaching a state of maximum entropy where no free energy remains, where no life can exist, where nothing happens and nothing changes, the heat death of the universe, the final equilibrium from which nothing can emerge. Or perhaps the expansion will eventually reverse, gravity overcoming the momentum of the Big Bang, pulling everything back together in a big crunch. All matter and energy collapsing back into a singularity, perhaps to bounce and begin again in a new Big Bang, a cyclic cosmos eternally expanding and contracting, creating and destroying, without beginning or end. Or perhaps something else entirely, some scenario we have not imagined, some possibility physics has not yet revealed. We do not know the ultimate fate of the universe, do not know if it had a beginning, do not know if it will have an end, do not know if our universe is the only one or part of an infinite multiverse. Do not know if the laws of physics are fixed and universal or contingent and varying. So much we do not know, so much remains mysterious, so much exceeds our current understanding. But this is not a problem, not a failure, not a source of anxiety. This is the nature of knowledge, always partial, always growing, always opening onto new questions. Mystery is not the opposite of knowledge, but its complement, the darkness that gives light meaning, the unknown that makes discovery possible, the horizon that keeps receding as we approach it. We will never know everything, we'll never have final answers, we'll never reach the end of questions. This is good, this is what makes science exciting, what keeps philosophy alive, what ensures there will always be wonder, always be awe, always be more to explore and understand and experience. And tonight, on this small scale of one human life, one human night, one transition from waking to sleeping, you participate in this larger pattern of mystery and knowledge, darkness and light, death and rebirth, ending and beginning. You end your day and begin your night. You leave waking consciousness and enter sleep consciousness. You release your identity and dissolve into unknowing, trusting you will reform in the morning. Trusting the sun will rise, trusting life will continue, trusting in the resilience of your organism, the reliability of natural law, the persistence of the world. This trust is fundamental, usually unconscious, but tonight you can make it conscious, can notice it, can feel it, can rest in it. You trust that your heart will keep beating while you sleep, that your lungs will keep breathing, that your brain will keep regulating, that automatic processes will continue functioning without your attention or effort. You trust that the earth will keep turning, that gravity will keep working, that morning will come. This trust is rarely articulated but always present, the background condition that makes sleep possible, makes life possible, makes existence bearable. Without trust, basic trust in reality, in your body, in the continuity of existence, you could not function, could not relax, could not sleep. Anxiety, fear, insomnia, these often arise from a breakdown of trust, from feeling unsafe, from expecting threat or betrayal or abandonment. But here, now, in this moment, you are safe, you are held, you are supported by layers of protection and care. Only silence remains, only being, only this, rest now, sleep now, be now, good night.